David Rao. David Rao kommt von
Shavua Tov, and welcome to the Chanukah celebration and the Suda Hoda'ah that we are having tonight in honor of the miracles back then and in our days right now. We want to thank the Rosh Yeshiva for hosting this very exciting event. We hope to have some very special guest speakers shortly, but without any further ado, we have a world premiere movie by our incredibly talented Yehuda Zaitim that modeled this video of a lecture given by the Rosh Yeshiva relating to the miracles in our days. Without any further ado, if we could have the world premiere of our very own video.
Fathers, yet will I and my sons and my brothers not fall away from the covenant of our fathers. Their valiant principles gain supporters, and they save Judaism from the clutches of Hellenism. This revival of the Jewish spirit was expressed in symbolic form by the miracles of lights.
The Rebbetzin wants to be turned down.
Nearly all of the spiritual powers which should have nourished the true Jewish teachings and culture, the lamp in the temple of God, have fallen away to heathenism. But the light burning in one courageous and faithful heart, which still had the priestly seal of purity stamped upon it, sufficed to light up the entire holy place and to save the edifice of Judaism. From this one light, all the other lights were kindled. Light is a universal metaphor for the Spirit. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching is light. Chanukah teaches that we should become conscious of the importance of the Jewish spirit, the Torah, which, through the bravery of the Hashmonaim, survived the Hellenistic onslaught, and it is our duty to see that it survives the onslaught of all currents that seek to destroy it. The lesson is, as the Talmud puts it, that the action of kindling is the most important part of the mitzvah. We must not give up hope, but we must go on proclaiming the teachings of the Torah despite the seeming darkness at the present time. It is the miracle of this courageous spirit that burned in the breasts of the Maccabees that we must think of when kindling the light of Hanukkah. When we light the menorah, we should do it with the consciousness of its symbolic meaning. However dark the world in which we live, as long as there is a single spark of the pure spirit of the Torah left, this may suffice to kindle another light, a third, and a fourth, and an eighth, until the whole of Israel, and ultimately the whole world, is illuminated by the teaching of God.
no small measure, lighting the Chanukah candle, more than we rekindle the candle, it rekindles our faith and betochen and emunah in Hashem. We've seen these amazing days of such tragedy and such challenges facing our nation. Just this summer, 6,000 rockets plunged into Israel. And even Hamas testified, how can we destroy this nation if their God will not allow it? Words that were quoted 3,300 years ago by Bilam and Bilak, when they tried to annihilate Am Yisrael in the desert. Through all their efforts, they came up empty-handed. And when we look at all our enemies throughout world history, the tiny little mitzvah of finding the Shemen Pach, Katan, has now reached about 1 billion points of light this Hanukkah across the world, as Rav Horowitz, the Rosh Yeshiva, explained. And in no small measure, that light is being kindled from right here in this yeshiva. How many hundreds, how many thousands of neshamas have been rekindled, and how many families have been rekindled, and how many children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren have been rekindled to the eternal lights of Torah. And without any further ado, we'd like to invite the Rosh Yeshiva to say a few words to rekindle the spirit that was so miraculous by Yamim Hahem in those days and in our days. I'll look for the Rosh Yeshiva. To continue with the program until the Rosh Yeshiva comes, I just want to mention that we're hoping to have some guest speakers that were personal witnesses to the incredible evil of Amalek a month ago when they visited a shul down the road and tried to murder the community. The tragedy of the 4 Kedoshim, at the miracle of about 200 or 300 that were miraculously plucked out of the valley of death. We have a journal that was just published regarding Hanukkah miracles with Dvar Torah from Rav Sternbuch, from the Rosh Yeshiva, and a story about Hanukkah in Bergen-Belsen, where it defied all forms of reality. The story, in short, was about some woman in the woman's bunk, about 100 of them, that a month before Hanukkah, they felt the terrible agony of how would they celebrate Hanukkah without sufganiyot, without celebratory meals, without sidurim, without any of the outer trappings of Hanukkah. And one brave woman decided to smuggle 5 potatoes that were meant to be part of the food and the stews to feed the Nazis in Machshamim v'Zichronim, and they carved out the inside of those potatoes, and they saved the bare threads of some of the cloth that they were meant to polish the instruments of destruction. And miraculously, the lights of Hanukkah were burning in Bergen-Belsen. You can read about it, but in the meantime, we are very honored and privileged that the Rosh Yeshiva will grace us with Divrei Chizuk for Hanukkah.
We welcome everyone here to Melave Malka Chanuka Party and the festival of Hanukkah. And it's interesting that the passage in the Gemara which deals with Hanukkah is in the tractate which deals with Shabbos. In that second chapter which deals with the kindling the lights of Shabbos. certain laws concern the light of Shabbos, but from that the more goes over into the light of Hanukkah. And more it describes my Hanukkah, what is it? Rashi says, Al Eze Nes Kavua. In other words, certainly it was known to the sages of the Mishnah and also to those who compiled the Gemara. They knew all about the Maccabean and the great miracles that occurred, which are recorded in so many different midrashim, recorded also by the Greeks, the people of the time, 4 books of the Maccabeans. And they were fantastic miracles, which are described also in a short manner in what we say in the Amidah, the daily prayer, and in the Birkat Hamazon, in the benching, where there's no mention whatsoever of what it says in the Gemara in Shabbos concerning the particular light of Hanukkah. And what were the great miracles? It says there was a small band of very courageous Rum people who tried to keep the light of Torah burning in their homes. Beit HaMikdash became a place of idolatry, completely contaminated, no service left, and neither were they permitted to continue prayer, the davening, or even learning Torah in any buildings. It all went on in the homes. Those who experienced a little bit of Jewish observance under communism was a similar situation. Also under the communists, there were areas where it was forbidden to have a yeshiva, other places they closed the synagogues. So that's what happened at the time of Malachim. And it says, what do we say in the prayers? We say, Al Anisim, Al Chuas, Al Milchomes. Milchomes means that Hashem gave power to Maccabi, Micha Moicho Po'elim Hashem, which is Rosh Tevot, Maccabi. And especially it emphasizes Kohen Gadol, Matis Job and Yochanan Kohen Gadol. They were the leaders of the rebellion. And it's only because Hashem dante es din und kannte es nicht Musam, Musati Giburim B'yad Chalashim, Rabim B'yad Ma'atim, because they were Tameim B'yad Terim, and Rishoim B'yad Tzadikim, and finally Zaydim B'yad Uskei Toratecha. The Greek nation, they were Zaydim. In fact, many of the Forshim say what Daniel saw, the future empire, he spoke about the Greek empire was a leopard. Heve az kanomer. But az kanomer should be used for Avodas Hashem. The Greeks used it amongst all the nations to go and destroy the people of Israel and destroy the Torah of Israel. And then it mentions, this is what we celebrate. But the Gemara in Shabbos, all it says about this is when they managed to go to the Beit HaMikdash, and then they only found Pachachot, one jug, the seal of the Kohen Gadol. And in the Tefillah, we don't mention this at all. It says, yes, it also says Idliku, Neiros B'chatzor Kochecha. But that's on Chanukah. Chanukah you got it in the home, not in the Chatzer. And the Chatzer, Chatzor Kochecha, Yeholi Chatzer, the Chatzer means the Rosh Chatzer, the Rosh the Azorah, the courtyard. not even the place where the menorah stood. So there's no real reference in our thanksgiving to Hashem for anything to do with the Par Erot Shel Shemen. So everyone asked the Kasha. Why in the Gemara? Why the Tefillah Sedor don't mention the miracle of one jug of oil being enough for 8 days when it's only enough for 1 day? And why in the Gemara in Shabbos it mentions only, the heart doesn't mention the other miracles at all. So there are many different answers given on this, but the real answer, once going back to the Shoresh HaDvarim, the root of the matter, was given already by the Malach who spoke to Zechariah about the second temple period. When it all started, there were many difficulties. So Zechariah was shown a menorah shel Zohar, which was fed by an olive tree. And Zechariah asked the Malach, what does it mean? It's a question. There's also a question here. What? He didn't know what the menorah was. Of course he knew what the menorah was. But why was it shown to him at that time? What special significance did it have? So he was told that the menorah means, what does the menorah mean? The menorah shel Zohar fed by olive oil. Olive oil is the fuel which gives Chochmah, Chochmas HaTorah. That's the Moshe of Chochmas HaTorah, which brings peace to the world, all through the Tanakh and Divrei Chazal. And who's going to light the menorah? The Kohanim light the menorah. And the inyan of lighting the menorah, Kinei Mitzvah Torah Or, is in order to teach Am Yisrael the power of Neh Mitzvah Torah Or. That every mitzvah is a light, and is a lamp, and the Torah is a huge light that enlightens the whole world. It's got 7 branches. Now 7, this goes a bit deeper. 7 we know is also Shabbos. And the Shabbos Be'em is also menorah. Because we know the central shaft is the Shabbos itself, and 3 days before and 3 days afterwards are the branches of the Shabbos, which has in Yoram in Halacha. You can go and make Havdalah until the end of the 3rd day. So it means to separate Ben Yom HaShvi, the Sheitz Me'amaseh, and you can board a ship or a plane before the 3 days, before Shabbos. The influence Shabbos goes out on both sides. Remember, the menorah is already mentioned, we're going more deeply in the first parak of the Chumash. It goes all the way through the Tanakh. And what's the end of the menorah of 7 branches? And what's the end of Shabbos? Shabbos is there to bring the regesh of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into food, and into drink, into every area of life. And to teach us that all the physical aspects of activity which we do during the week, they all come from Hashem. That's a lesson for the individual, a lesson also for the whole nation, for all Am Yisrael. And now, this is the deep explanation, if you go to more deeply. First of all, there's many kashas, bichlal, on this ness of the 7 days. But first, it wasn't necessary at all, but they could have done it with Tumah. And then, they could easily have waited another week. What difference does it make to wait another week? And then there's a Klal Godol, mentioned by the Rambam, others. Kodesh Baruch doesn't do any nisim unless they're necessary. There's no necessity for this at all. It didn't save anybody. Just meant already. You had a week later. What's the nafkamina? Everybody asks also, where do we find there's oil put by the Kohen Gadol? Because we know there's a seal of kashrus and so on. Also today, because that's the difference. There always used to be, to make it kosher oil. But why it have to be the seal of the Kohen Gadol? So the real meaning is, which is developed by the Zohar, developed by Maral, developed by Rav Hirsch, the whole Indian was that one is the explanation of the other. They meant Rav Dessler used to say like this, when it comes to avodah, then the mitzvah was put in the avodah of kindling the light. Kindling the light means teaching Torah. Yeah? It's avodah, so therefore that's the mitzvah. The Gemara deals with the mitzvah. But Todah, to give thanksgiving to Hashem, we give thanksgiving to Hashem when we get out of danger. And here was not only physical danger, the danger that the Chochmah Yevonis was taking over Am Yisrael. And that was their derech of Shmad, their derech of bringing Am Yisrael away from the Torah, which means the end of Am Yisrael, because there's no Torah in Am Yisrael. So it was a double hashmokah. So therefore they say the whole Indian of the nest was that's what the Chai want to know, what's the Indian by Sheni? How are we going to stop it becoming absorbed by the huge empires? Even the Persian Empire was already beginning to be taken over by the Greeks. You thought, what's going to happen? So he was told, Malach told him, the Indian is lebechayev lebekoyach ki beruchi. Why? It's easiest to give the answer really. What did he mean? It's not with strength, not with power will you be able to survive, only with the Spirit of Hashem. What the Spirit of Hashem is Torah, mitzvahs. That's, that all inyanim ruchniim are expressed in terms of light. Even the whole non-Jewish world, enlightenment. What, you can't go and learn the sciences which take place without light in the dark? No, the Indian is that the deepest aspect of the human mind is to see a little bit of the light that exists in the confused world. So you can use your intelligence for it. And that in Yesh Chacham Makoim Tamin, and the Greeks thought they went entirely on the concept of Chachma. And until today, that's the situation of the Western world on the whole. The Western world, all the universities, they study all the science, they make many discoveries. So they produce Chachma. But Yesh Torah Makoim Al Tamin. And the Greeks wanted to say like this, we Torah Sheba'al Peh, which comes originally from Hashem, but Hashem gave it over to the human mind. He gave it to the Chachomim to know that the source, not Torah Sheba'al alone, which is the most hidden aspect of Torah, but Torah Sheba'al Peh is the Torah which is given to the greatest Chachomim of Am Yisrael. That's what we say, the Torah is no longer min hashamayim. The Torah was given over to people of Seichel. But they all know the Makar of Seichel is the 8th dimension. The 8th dimension, the dimension was above nature, above time. So this is Torah Bagoim Al Tamin. Only when a person is willing to accept entirely that the Makar of Torah Shabbat is also in the Shemayim, then he can be a Chacham of the Torah. And in fact, the Greeks went so far as to arrange a translation into Greek from the Torah, which, however, Chazal say, brought Choshev to Am Yisrael. Why? Because as a result, the Greeks think you can go and understand the Torah in another language. And that's what's brought. There are many non-Jews who know the Bible. But what do? They look at it with the human seichel, and they don't recognize the divine seichel. So this is the two aspects, which is so important today. You can look at it like this: the state of Israel, with all its from a political angle on the whole, they think they can be a state like other states. They think they can run Eretz Yisrael and Jews without Torah many. And so those sections that are today trying to stop the power of the yeshivas, the power of the Torah, they're influenced by the aspects of the Greek approach which still exists amongst the nations, and which they've introduced into the universities. And the motto of the Hebrew University, characteristically, is to twist the Torah. It's part of the way of mistranslating the Torah, when they say, Lo b'chayim lo perki b'ruach. They think with ruach alone, without the yud, you don't have to, the yud isn't important. The yud can be ignored. What does that mean? You can ignore the power of the eighth dimension, you can ignore. The eighth dimension is above Torah. So this is also the union of the Pach Echot Shel Shemen, which handled the chosim of the Kohen Gadol, because the whole rebellion was started through Matisyahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol. He started the rebellion. He said, we're going to battle against them, use all our koichas. And Baruch Hashem gave them the koyach, and this is the major lesson for today. The state of Israel took it as symbol on all official stationery. What do you find at the top? What's the seimal? The menorah. They put the menorah there. Yeshiva also took, we have it, that's our symbol. Because we say that Ki mitzir tetzeh Torah Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. And that is a major lesson, it's an important lesson for us today to recognize that there's no stira whatsoever. Adrab, Hashem is I say it's even hinted at the Rambam. Because the Rambam says, Mitzvahs ner Chanukah mitzvah chaviv hi ad moed. It's a very important mitzvah. V'tzarich adam lizava k'dei lodi'a nes, and a person has to be very particular about it to make the miracle known. U'lohoisif b'shevach hakei hodaya, and to increase its praise and thanksgiving to Hashem al anisim she'asa lanu, for the miracles that made for us. The Rambam is here referring, why the Nisim? First there's Nes, then he says Nisim. You've got to thank Hashem for the Nes of the Pach Shel Shemen. But he said that in itself is a means to explain how come Zeidim Biaroskei Torotecha. How did it happen? It happened because the kindling, Hashem Yisborach, actually gave it right lechatchila with the Ner Marovi. The Ner Marovi was the same. The Ner Marovi they put in enough oil just for the night, but it always went on for 24 hours. And that Chazal say, Nes Shashchina Shoyde B'Yisrael. From there you see Am Yisrael is different to all the nations of the world, because Am Yisrael is constantly supported by the power that Hashem gives to Am Yisrael when the battle is a battle for Torah. And for Torah, you can't drive away darkness and ignorance and even cruelty. And even people who've got in their minds, they don't mind killing themselves in order to produce more hate in the world and to have their distorted today they're collecting criminals from all over the world, the most extreme group. They have some criminals from the Western world. The underworld, they say, oh, you've got a chance to express our evil nature. Instead of, the Torah is there to purify the evil nature. And today, they're taking them to go and fight against Am Yisrael. So this is the Nes, the enormous Nes, and the Rambam said, Al-Nisim. Why is it Al-Nisim? Because he means when you light the candles, you shouldn't just think of the miracle of the candle by itself, stam. It's not stam. It's the inner toichen of the whole, of the significance of Am Yisrael for the whole world, to drive away the darkness that exists and the evil middles that exist. It can only be done with the Torah Hashem. And when unfortunately Jews, I'd say it's not their fault, it's Melave and all of them, for generations, unfortunately Jews have assimilated the Western ideas, and as a result they've forgotten about Hashem. It's we who know Hashem, we are the ones who've got to battle. How do we battle? The main battle is, don't allow the lowly aspect, which can so easily be twisted in the minds of human beings, to forget about Hashem and forget about their own souls. Because Hashem has given each human being its soul right inside. But they cover over the soul power with Tzelem Elokim. And in its place they put the worst animalistic instincts taken over. and it's only the Torah that can change the world. There's a Torah for all the nations, Torah's B'nai Noach, and there's a Torah for Am Yisrael who've got to be like the Kohanim. We've got to be Mamlechas Kohanim. And therefore it's Mamash B'Hashgocha that when there were some Kohanim who were true to the inner spirit, he was Matis Yob and Yochanan couldn't go. He couldn't serve in the Beis HaMikdash, but he kept the Indian that the whole tachlis of Am Yisrael is to become Melechas Kohanim, and he battled for it. So that's why the Rambam says, Ala Nisim. What's Ala Nisim? The other Nisim. And look, every one of us tonight and all nights, what do we say? We kindle these lights, Ala Nifloes, Ala Churas, Ala Mechomes, Shosisel Avoseino, Bimman Hazeh. What that's why we kindle the lights? People think it's not me kindle the lights because the miracle of the Pach Hashem. No, you've got to know the inner content of the miracle. Because this miracle gives you, if you have enough knowledge, the concept that all Am Yisrael have to become a torch for Hashem. We've all got to light the world that surrounds us with the power of Torah. Fill ourselves with so much Torah that with which we'll be able to drive away the darkness. So that's why it says, and there's even, the Rambam explains, Neiros Chanukah have got a din which we don't find except with the Arba Koisus. The Arba Koisus on Pesach, so if the person doesn't have enough, then the din is, you've got to sell your garments. You've got to go around begging, so sell your garments. Afilu, if he hasn't anything from the stocker, he's got to borrow or sell his garment, borrow money, and he's got to lokech shema v'neos u'madlik. So why is this? Because he's got to be lohodia hanes or lohes b'shef v'keil. Another place is that we've got to thank Hashem constantly to laharis or legalis, to show and to reveal, to show with the lights, but to reveal what's the message of the lights. So let's all take that message today, and let us make sure that the power of the Neiros, the power of the Menorah HaKadoshah, will bring all of us to become stronger in learning so much Torah that we will be able to influence other people, both through our behavior, through our fulfillment of the mitzvahs and our mitzvah, and also through the wisdom of how to live, and how to increase love in the world, and how to remove hatred. If we will do this, each one of us, work as much as we can in our area, in that direction, Yitz Hashem, we should see not only the full 8 lights, with the 8, I feel near to the 8th dimension, which is the supernatural power of Hashem, link with Him. Because, there's a non-Jewish poet said that life is the lust for the light of a lamp that's dark till the dawn of the day that we die. That's amongst non-Jews. And even today, many non-Jews, even when they have a near-death experience, then they start experiencing the power of the neshama, and they know that Hashem exists. Even people previously were complete kofrim. It's happening all the time. But we Am Yisrael, we have it with every mitzvah and with every learning of Torah. Thereby, we bring more kedusha into our life, become nearer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And let us hope that all of us will do our part in this critical situation we are today to transform the menorah into the light that will drive away all the darkness from our lives and all the darkness from the life of Am Yisrael. Amen. Amen.
Part of the miracle is Manazeh, is that we see the ingathering of the nation in the most impossible conditions. When we reflect on just after the ashes of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen and the tragedy that afflicted our nation as never before in the death camps, that out of those ashes grew the light of the return of our nation. Under the most impossible conditions, secular Jews and religious Jews rose up together against the armada of all the nations of the world, even those that voted for us in the United Nations, voted with the United Nazis. That they figured on the first day of the State of Israel, it wouldn't be its birthday, it would be the death day. 7 nations, armed with all the equipment, guns, tanks, planes, weapons of Britain's army. The day Britain left, General Gibbs coordinated the 7 Arab armies, 1 million-man army, facing 500,000 men, women and children, of which about 10,000 were left to defend, much less than that in arms and weapons. And we see once again that we defied the worst expectations of our enemies. We had the chutzpah to fight back, and by the grace of God, to live and to raise up and to kindle the faith of this nation. For people like Rabbi Beryl Wine, he said that was one of the most powerful and exciting days of his life in Chicago, celebrating the birth of the nation of Israel, the state of Israel, and the return of Israel. He's done a series called the Destiny Series, which is a magnificent work on the last 100 years, broken down into 10-year chapters. And even for our most hardened critics, they're forced and compelled to confess that the miracles that this nation experiences is unprecedented and unrepeatable. Not only Litziat Mitzrayim, but from every one of our galut, from every one of our exiles, we've come back against all odds to defy all the pundits of the world, to the point that the most sophisticated technology, weapons, and army in the entire world, in all of world history, a student asked the general in charge of the entire army at West Point Academy in the USA a little while ago, why is it that you teach all the wars and all the strategies and all the technologies of world history to any graduating top brass in the US Army, but the modern wars of Israel are not taught, not mentioned, and not even acknowledged? What's happening here? That you go back to battles like Waterloo and Dunkirk and 1,001 battles throughout world history, but to talk about the modern state of Israel, that's taboo. So of course the general blew a fuse, and I'm not sure if he kicked the student out, but definitely that question provoked his wrath, and he pulled the student aside and said, "How dare you embarrass me in front of all the academy? How dare you ask such a question?" And the student, who was Jewish, said to him, "Please forgive me, General, it's a fair question. I'm asking in all sincerity, why don't you teach the modern wars of Israel?" So the general, boiling inside, ready to explode, said, "Don't you understand? It's all miracles. And we can't depend on miracles. We can learn nothing from miracles. They can learn nothing from miracles, but we have to learn. We have to understand the God of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps." Testament from none other than King David in his awe through his voyage through the valley of death. From whence cometh his help? From the same place as our help. I'll tell you a little story of a miracle that is part of the Suda Hoda'ah, Melave Malka tonight. Karasatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for a miracle of unimagined proportions. 19 years ago, a family were invited to Hebron for Parshat Chaya Sarah, and it was Erev Shabbos, the sun was setting, and the family were under tremendous pressure to get to shul in time. They were staying at Beit Avraham, and their hosts told them that you just take a left out the front door, go straight down the road. Where the road forks, keep straight. Derech Yashar. Go straight in the path of Hashem. So of course, they continued their little trek. And when they got to that fork in the road, it looked a little bit strange because there was a road that went down into the valley to the left. And straight ahead were a lot of tall buildings that didn't look familiar. So of course, following instructions in a place like that is a good idea, especially when it comes from people that know what they're talking about, people that have lived there for tens of years. Don't venture out on your own. We don't need to describe some of the tragedies that have happened at Hebron. It's one of the tremendous flashpoints where Hamas and the PLO have shed a lot of Jewish blood. So what happened, including the Hebron massacres 100 years ago. So what happened was that they continued straight ahead, full steam ahead, and after a minute or two, they heard the sound of hisses. It was coming from all the buildings, like the buildings were filled with snakes, deadly snakes. And then it sounded like bottles being smashed on the ground, and sure enough, there were bottles being smashed on the ground. Probably 40 or 50 Arabs rushed out of the buildings with broken bottles and knives and grabbed them and had these knives and bottles at their throat. And this couple that was 6 months pregnant with their firstborn cried out Shema Israel, and they knew within a second they were leaving this world. And it was clear to them that this was the last second. And just as clear as it was, there was a tremendous kind of a hurricane force that enveloped them like a tornado, as we were watching this evening. And this tornado kind of enveloped everybody that was around them, and the sound of bottles and knives falling to the ground also surrounded them. And then there were blood-curdling screams. And these 40 or 50 Arab Hamasniks, just as fast as they came, disappeared and evaporated, like Kriyat Yamsuf. And the couple was standing there bewildered, 6 months pregnant, the wife, and the husband made a critical decision that either they continue in this world together or they leave this world together. No third choice. And they cried out to Hashem, and in that second, there was something not less than Kriyat Yamsuf. And within a few more seconds, they were surrounded by 8 soldiers with bulletproof vests, machine guns, and an anti-tank jeep that was behind those soldiers. And they trembled and shook, and they said that they were going back to the apartment and they would stay there for the rest of Shabbat, not to venture one toe out of the apartment, and Motzei Shabbat, they would never come back to Hebron. And the soldiers told them to be quiet and to move forward. And they went through what was not the valley of death, it was the Kasbah of Hebron. And there's only one place in the world that matches that. The Kasbah, the Shuk of Gaza, of Gaza, in terms of deadly danger for a Jew to be walking through in all his Shabbos finery, with his top hat, his black suit, and his wife dressed to the Shabbos, to honor the Shabbos. And so the soldiers took them through what was like a movie in slow motion going through Nicaragua during the revolution. So the soldiers pointing the machine guns at every window and protecting this couple with their bulletproof vests. And just behind it was a bulletproof, tank-proof jeep with machine guns also pointing at every window. And they went through the valley of death. And when they got to the other side, it was the steps of Hebron. And the husband turned around to the soldiers as he was about to enter into the door, hearing the tunes of Kalibach Erev Shabbat. Lecha dodi likrat kala. He was sure that he wasn't entering this world, he was entering the next world. So he turned around to the soldier and he said, please forgive me. I would like to thank you, but I cannot. And they looked at him in his black suit and black hat and they said, why is that? Because you are Haredi? That you don't appreciate what we did for you? He said, heaven forbid. I cannot thank you as human beings. I have to say, Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon. Thank you, O mighty angels, angels from the highest parts of heaven, that Hashem has sent you to rescue us. I can tell you about the story because I'm that person. My wife and I went through that valley of death 19 years ago. How can we not thank Hashem today? We have to understand that the miracle isn't the menorah. The miracle isn't even the Pach Shem and Zayit. If you want to know what was the greatest miracle in all world history, follow me on this one. Raise your hand up. Everybody that wants to experience the greatest miracle of world history, don't be shy. Just raise your hand. Take it easy. Just raise your hand up. Don't be shy. Anybody that wants to experience the greatest miracle of world history, raise your hand for a second. Point right up, right up. Point. Okay, that's not the point. That's not the point yet. Turn your wrist around. Lower your hand a little bit. Put it here. The greatest miracle of world history. People asking, what zchut are we here in Israel today? We've got to understand it's zchut avot. It started with Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov Avinu, and it continues through every one of our forefathers and every one of our foremothers. You should know the Mesiras Nefesh that they went through. Not one of them got away with anything less than a Kedat Yitzchak. I was there as well, in Hebron. The miracle of how Hashem plucked me out of the valley of death, my wife, and to look at our beautiful children today. What can we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to deliver miracles beyond our wildest dreams? Even though I walk through the valley of death, Hashem guides me. And this is every one of our forefathers and us today. Let us make no mistake about it. The miracles that we are experiencing today, even Hamas are overwhelmed. 6,000 rockets launched with deadly accuracy into every city of Israel. That nobody should think for a second that those guys are idiots. If anybody's an idiot, it's those that think that they are idiots. 6,000 rockets that they launched into represents maybe 1,000 of their armamentarium. They're sitting with mountains and mountains of rockets, machine guns and weapons, and it's not just pointing at us, it's at every Jew on planet Earth. Let's not make any mistake about it. I phoned my sister and brother-in-law this week, and they told me that restaurant in Australia, in Sydney, was right next to the workplace of my brother-in-law. It was right next to the workplace of my nephew, his son, and was right next to the workplace of his son-in-law. And the restaurant was owned by an Israeli Jewish family that have a kosher restaurant, a kosher chocolate shop, the finest of the finest. One of my patients was sitting in my chair and she said she would go there at least once a week because the kosher delicacies from that restaurant were unprecedented in all of Australia. They chose that restaurant, that they targeted a Jewish facility is no coincidence. The real miracle and the tragedy was that even though they targeted everything Jewish, not unlike the Twin Towers, that in a building that may have housed 250,000 Jews, at the end of the day, about 90 Shomrei Shabbos Jews left this world, out of 2,700, and at the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers. What they were planning for that morning was that 250,000 Jews should leave this world. And they put in a mighty effort. The miracles that happened that day, 2 quick points of light. One was a set of tefillin. In the zchut of that set of tefillin, about 1 million people went home that day, including about 250,000 Jews. What happened with that set of tefillin? A young Jewish man, a businessman, was on his way to Los Angeles. He davened the Nates Minyan in the departure lounge. He was still in the Shmona Esrei as they announced that the plane was leaving. He quickly whipped off his tefillin, rushed to the plane, and with his bags he sat down. Then he counted his luggage and realized he had forgotten his set of sacred tefillin at the departure lounge in his rush to make the flight. So he told the chief air hostess, you cannot leave without my sacred tefillin. I have to go back for a few seconds. I'll be back soon. She said, sorry, sir. FDA, FAA regulations. Nobody on, nobody off. The door is locked. Sit down. So he got up and he started screaming. And for 15 minutes, this Shokel Vittorier that almost reached epic proportions where people wanted to strike him. The captain came out of the cockpit to find out what was this balagan that was delaying the flight, and they could be fined for running late. And of course he couldn't take off until everybody was seated. The captain in a split second said to this man, sir, get back to your seat. He said, you're an understanding man, captain. Please, my sacred tefillin, which are precious, I cannot go without them. Even if you would want to send them on the next flight, I cannot leave without them. The captain made a split-second decision that had never happened before. He said, if I open the door, we're not waiting. The man said, Amen. With that, the captain personally opened the cockpit, the door. The man raced out to catch his sacred tefillin. He raced back to the plane within a few seconds. And of course, the door of the plane was closed, and it was coasting on the runway, and it took off. It was delayed 18 minutes. The difference between the first flight to strike the Twin Towers at 8:45 and the second flight that struck it at 9:03 was 18 minutes. As we say, Chai is the Shmona Esrei. In the zchut of that one set of tefillin, about 1 million people went home that day. The pilot from the second plane, the United Airlines that crashed into the south flight, he survived. The pilot of the plane that crashed into the South Tower survived. He survived. We got the story. We published a book about it called Miracles, Even in the Darkest Moments, which became a bestseller in America. It sold about $500,000 worth of books, and all the money went to Hatzalah around the world to continue their life-saving work. The biggest miracle that day was almost 1,000 Hatzalah members. By the end of the day, about 1,000 policemen, firemen, and ambulance men had perished. And when the head of the emergency services for New York State asked the head of Hatzalah, as the sun was setting and looked like it was setting on civilization, he said to him, how many of your men were injured? And the head of Hatzalah, Rabbi Michael Handler, said 30 guys were injured. Some of them in hospital, broken bones, cuts, tears. And he said, and how many of your almost 1,000 guys that were in and around the Twin Towers perished? And Rav Handler, with tears welling up in his eyes, said, not one. We just found the last one alive. And with that, the head of the New York emergency services started crying with him. He said, you Jews, your God is so awesome. I want to stay close to you people forever. And of course there was a Suda Hoda'ah a year later, at the exact same date, 9/11, a week before Rosh Hashanah. Governor McCracken joined the Jewish Suda Hoda'ah. And I want to say, in no small measure, we are privileged tonight to have so many people with so many miracles. What happened a month ago in Hanof, we should know it wasn't the address of one shul or one group in one shul. What Amalek had in mind was from 15 years ago. What was planned back then, the tunnels, they were working for 15 years, and it cost them thousands of Arab boys that perished in the tunnels. They've got thousands of kilometers of tunnels, and something the size of Teddy Stadium underground, a hospital, and military bunkers 25 meters underground that even bunker busters and atom bombs can't get at. Super fortified structures. And what happened was that they were planning on Rosh Hashanah to visit the communities of the south, but in the zchut of 3 korbanot, 3 tzaddikim, these 3 little boys that were kidnapped and murdered, it forced the hand of Am Yisrael after 18 days of searching for these little boys, that they didn't know their destiny, their plight. And I was at a Sefer Torah, Hafnosa Sefer Torah, dedicated to them in the hopes that they would come and read from that Sefer Torah. I haven't given up on those hopes, because definitely at Techiyat HaMetim they will be back. These 3 little tzaddikim saved millions of lives. I just want to share the story with you quickly, that they had planned for 15 years these tunnels through the Sinai into Gaza to ship about 1 million Hamasnikim and Achim Ishmaelim, the Ishmael Brotherhood, people from Iran, the Iranian Guard, Malaysia, the Pakistani terrorists and from Sudan. And they had thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of machine guns and uniforms, Israeli uniforms, that they planned to put on, come through the tunnels and visit every shul that Rosh Hashanah night. As a 3-day chag, they had worked for that night for 15 years. All the Amalekim of the world. They planned to break through those tunnels, take care of the communities in the periphery of Gaza within a few minutes, and they planned to have all the Arabs with their buses and their taxis and their cars, schlep them with their anti-tank rockets and their machine guns to every community throughout Israel. Leil Rosh Hashanah. Behi Or. What happened at Leil Rosh Hashanah? We were thinking about the Shechianu, what's for supper? We were thinking about what had happened that year and what awaits us in the coming year. Little could we imagine how even as Moshe Rabbeinu, when Bilam and Bilak were plotting the annihilation of Am Yisrael, Rabbi Victor Miller says this is absolute proof that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and only HaKadosh Baruch Hu, could have been the author of Torah, because Am Yisrael never knew about the plots of Bilam and Bilak. The miracle of how Hashem plucks us every Shebekol Dovador. I asked Rav Shembuch, what does it mean Shebekol Dovador? Is a door, as we know in Pirkei Avot, 18 years old, that by 19 there's the next generation, or by 20? Or is a door Achitophel, that David HaMelech reached 70 years, so in the generation of David it would be 70 years, Achitophel was 35 years, or would it be something like Moshe Rabbeinu, in the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, that once every 20, 35, 70, 120 years, Hashem, Kavarochel, comes down like Superman to rescue his nation. So let's just compare notes. The War of Independence, the War of Attrition, the Sinai campaign, the 67, the Six-Day War, the 73, the Yom Kippur War, the First Gaza War, the Intifada Rishon, the Lebanon War Rishon, Lebanon Sheni, Gaza Sheni, the Intifada Sheni. So let's face facts that it's been more than every 20 years that somehow the world plots their evil against this nation. So I asked Rav Shembuch, what would he say? Was it a door? If we say on Pesach, Shabbat, called Dor Vador. So Rav Shembuch asked me what I thought about it. So I said, to understand it on that level, I don't understand it, but I thought hard, long and hard about it, and I came to the following conclusion, that if we consider what is the number of Am Yisrael in this second right now, not just in this room, not just in the city, not in this country, but across the world, what would that number be? A rough estimate, what would you say? How many million of Am Yisrael exist in the world, roughly?
18.
18 million, some would say 12 million, something between that. Let's say, who would know that number absolutely? Hashem. So let's say that number is X. X is the number. Now, in this second, somewhere in the world for sure, a little baby, Jewish baby is being born, and he comes into the world, Hadassah and Kerem, Sharet Tzedek, or anywhere else in the world. And what would the number of Am Yisrael be in this second now?
X plus 1.
X plus 1, okay. And a moment later, a righteous old tzaddik breathes his last, he says Shema Yisrael, and his neshama leaves him at 120, Bezrat Hashem. What would the number of Am Yisrael be now? X. Huh? Would it be the same X as it was a second or 2 seconds ago?
No, it's X plus 1 minus 1.
Exactly. So let's review that in that moment that little baby was born and that old tzaddik who were in the world together, it was a unique generation. That generation existed for how long? For 1 second. Now let's review what we say on Leil Seder. Shebekol Dor Vador. What does that mean? That in every second and second, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves us from them. Without any further ado, I'd like the privilege to invite a dear friend of mine going back 20 or 30 years. Okay, then I'd just like to say that from my vantage point, it's a privilege to say Shalom Aleichem to a dear old friend from South Africa and from here, that we've got an old friendship, and each of us in our own way have experienced Yeshua Baron, Rabbi Baron. What I'd like to say is that for all of us, we all have our own story, Shebekol Dovador, and the real story is that it's not the Hanukkah candle or the oil that's the miracle. The real miracle is each and every one of us that's alive today, at this other side of the tunnel of darkness of 2,000 years. So really what we're talking about here is something that is beyond time and place. When we look at all the ancient enemies, one of the most profound enemies that we could ever have imagined was Hitler, Yamach Shemo, the Zichrono, that he had a final solution when we looked most hopeless. Rebbetzin Jungchrist wanted to go up to the commandant of Bergen-Belsen and ask him, "Excuse me, Herr Commandant, who do you think is going to win this war? You mighty Nazis with multi-million man armies, with the greatest air force in the world, the greatest tank force in the tens of thousands, that you're smashing London and you're smashing Stalingrad, and you are sweeping across Europe and the world. Who do you think is going to win? You mighty Nazis or us helpless Jews?" I didn't say hopeless, us helpless Jews, that we look so tragic. 6 million of our brothers and sisters paid the supreme price. They left this world al Kiddush Hashem. And we can be sure that they entered Gan Eden immediately. Because to leave al Kiddush Hashem was the dream of Rabbi Akiva. How old was Rabbi Akiva when he left this world? 120. What day was his birthday? What day?
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. That his students should see the Rebbe leaving this world on Yom Kippur at 120 with Shema Yisrael on his lips. And they said, "Rebbe, how can this be happening to you?" And he said to him, "All my life I've lived al Kiddush Hashem. I dreamt of leaving this world al Kiddush Hashem." And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu was a student of Rabbi Akiva. The Otiyot on the Keterim, on the Otiyot of the letters, Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't understand, and Rabbi Akiva was darshaning them. So I want to share one of the ideas of Hanukkah, that we stay all 8 days, and let's review together that in the days of Matisyahu, כל הברכות, השם שומר אותך לכל המשפחה וכל עם ישראל. יישר כוח גדול, כל טוב, חנוכה שמח, נסים ונפלאות, עד בלי די. Okay, so we say, "You in your great mercy stood up for Am Israel in the time of distress." Now there are 8 points of incredible light that come at this moment. It says, "You took up the grievances." What are the words? Rafta et vivam. So this is the first level of Hashem's involvement with His nation. When He saw the grievances of Am Yisrael, seeing the desecration of Shabbos forced upon us, to see the desecration of Rosh Chodesh forced upon us, and to see the Torah forbidden to us. These were grievances that Hashem would take revenge. Judge their claims. Danta et dinam. Avenge their wrongs. Dinta et dinam. The third point. Avenge the wrong that's done to them. Dekamta et nikmatam. An amazing thing that Rabbi Reuben said with the tragedy in the shul. He mentioned that Hashem yikdam damim. And we must listen to these words very carefully, because it's genetically embellished in the Hanukkah miracle. Who takes revenge for the spilled blood of Am Yisrael? Hashem yikdam damim. Hashem certainly will, as it says in Hazinu. Hashem will take revenge on the blood of his beloved ones. And we think that the Holocaust was a terrible tragedy. The Goyim have no idea what it cost them. What was the cost to the Goyim for the 6 million Jews that were murdered covertly and overtly at the hands of Esav, Ishmael, and Amalek? How much did it cost the Goyim? 60. 60 million Goyim perished in World War II. And all Europe and civilization was laid waste. It's taken almost until now to build up civilization again, and the tragedy is they're back at 1939. Just this week, they passed a law throughout Europe recognizing Hamas as a legitimate organization. They've taken them off the murderous terrorist list. And of course that makes them partners. In the generation of Noach, it said, Hamas haya b'kol ha'olam. You see once again, anybody that through word or deed, through money, or any form of support, supports Hamas in their pledge to murder the Jews, becomes a partner in the world war against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And make no mistake, Hashem is counting votes right now. Nekam te'et nikmatam. The fourth, you delivered the strong into the hands of the weak. The fifth, the many into the hands of the few. Mishata giburim b'yad chalashim. The fifth candle. The sixth candle, the impure into the hands of the pure. Tamain b'yad toharim. The seventh candle, the wicked into the hands of the righteous. Harashoin b'yad tzadikim. And the eighth candle, which represents something ma'al va'eva, beyond the tevra of this world, something of the level of bris milah, Pesach, b'demai chayeh, b'demai chayeh. Zadim b'yad oskei toratecha. That this is the secret weapon that has saved us through the generations. And even Hamas, as we mentioned before, testified to the impossible miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing with Am Yisrael today. Yehuda Zaitim. We have a video that needs to be put on. Does anybody know where Yehuda is? The editor. Somebody can call him. While we're waiting, I just want to mention quickly a tremendous zchut that Yeshua Baron was the fourth person in that role at the shul on Agassi, where Amalek came to visit and murdered the 3 people standing next to him. As they got to him, that Amaleki put his gun at the head of Yeshua and pulled the trigger, and the gun didn't go off. He pulled it again. A second time it didn't go off. The third time and a fourth time, the gun jammed. And with that, somebody screamed to them, "Get out!" And somehow the pachad of Shemaim struck them. And the 2 Amalekim ran at that second outside the shul. Waiting for them outside were a whole group of policemen. One showed about an inch of his face and shot the first Amaleki that came down the steps, shot and killed him on the spot. And as he fell down the steps, the second one was coming out the door. And that 1 inch of his forehead that was showing around a cement pillar, that Amaleki pulled the trigger again and killed the Druze policeman. So if anybody says that the gun jammed and that they were idiots, misses the point completely. And from maybe 20 meters away, showing 1 inch of his forehead, the policeman got killed. Putting the gun to the temple of my friend, the gun jammed. Of course, from our vantage point, the magnitude of the miracles, in spite of the tragedy that they'd planned that morning, they knew more than anybody else. They knew more than anybody else that that was the biggest shul in Hanof, the most populous shul. On an average day, between 200 or 300 people came to pray there, and the prayer started at 7 o'clock every morning. It was no coincidence that they were there at 7 o'clock that morning. Another person that was there at 7 o'clock that morning was Rav Sternbuch's son, Rav Chaim Ozer, who we are hoping will come to address us a little later about the magnitude of his miracle, which is unimagined.
Chag Sameach, everyone. It's a big kavod to be here tonight in Yeshivat Dvar Yerushalayim, ברשותו של הרב הורוביץ שליטה, and with the guiding of Dr. Maury Bank. Let's have a big hand of applause for Dr. Maury Bank. I feel like when I'm going to Auschwitz, I went to sing 4 years ago in Auschwitz, and they told me here was the place where the Nazis killed the Jews. Here's Hanof a few weeks later with a wonderful, wonderful story and a wonderful miracle that ended only with 4 people. Chaz v'sholom could have ended with more people. With Chaz de Hashem, only 4 tzaddikim went. So now we're going to sing a little bit Yevonim. Oh Yevonim nikbetzu alai kulam biachad. Oya zay b'mei chashmanim. O farzel chaymois loimois migdolai. V'timu kol hashmanim. O Yevonim nikbetzu alai. Oya zay b'mei chashmanim. O farzel chaymois loimois migdolai. V'timu kol hashmanim. O minoi sakan kanim. Nase neis la shoy shanim. B'nei vino yemei shmoino. Kavu shiru lenonim. O minoi sakan kanim. Nase neis la shoy shanim. B'nei vino yemei shmoino. Kavu shiru lenonim. Leman achai v'reya. Leman achai v'reya. Dr. Bank, a whole year is busy only to make light. Today is the Chag HaUrim. Oy leman bebeis Hashem Elokeinu avaksho toy lo. Oy leman bebeis Hashem Elokeinu avaksho toy lo. I just want to share one thought that I heard today, and it's very suitable for this Chag. There was a priest, with the king when they came off a train, and there was a big music, trumpets, and a whole band waiting for the train. So the king tells the priest, this music is made for me. wherever I go in the whole world, the music is waiting for me. And the priest told the king, no, the music is for me. Because you're a king, everybody's afraid of you, but people like me. So the music is made for me. And they're timing, they're arguing, and they see a Jew sitting down, and they said, we have to make a seker. Who is the music made for? So they go over to the Jew, they said, we'll give you a lot of money, you have to make a seker, go around, we want to know the truth. Why the music? To who did the music come? For me or for the king? So the Jew said, the music is made for me. Why? Because I needed money for Yom Tov. So Hashem made the whole thing that you should have music, you shouldn't know for who it is, and you should pay me. The same thing this week, Yosef HaTzadik went to the jail. The Sarah Oifim came, Sarah Mashkim, everybody came just for Yosef. Yosef, the Jew is the main thing in the world. And everybody has to know that this Chag HaOrim, this is the time that we can fight all the Goyim and all the darkness with the Eish HaTorah, Dvar Yerushalayim, with Dr. Mori Bank.
Rabbi Ephraim, what we'd like to do at this stage is have a few moments just to see this video that you've all been waiting for. Miracles from the edge of Gaza, protective edge. The miracles of how Hashem has continued moment by moment, and the testament of the individuals. Just to reflect for a moment on this incredible footage of what was happening this summer while we were contemplating what we're going to be having for Shabbos and what we're going to be having for all our meals every day. Let's consider how Hashem, moment by moment, was rescuing Am Yisrael and continues every moment.
4,594 טילים נורו על ישראל במבצע צוק איתן. 4,594 טילים. ברזל ירתה 735 טילים. זה כשלעצמו שהרי אף אחד מהמומחים שסקרו את המערכת בעת פיתוחה לא האמין שהיא תצליח להיערך אפילו טיל אחד. לאן נעלמו 3,859 טילים? לאן הם נעלמו? אז ככה, 188 טילים נחתו חזרה בעזה. באיזה נזק כל אחד גרם? טיל אחד נפל ברפיח, 8 נהרגו.
ניסיון לירי רקטה ממתחם בית החולים שיפה בעזה הסתיים היום במותם של 10 פלסטינים. ארגון פלסטיני כפי שכבר קרה בעבר לא פעם.
224 טילים ופצמרים נפלו על בתים, בניינים, מקומות מאוכלסים, ליד בלוני גז. התפוצץ.
זה היה למעשה ביום שישי, בשעות אחרי הצהריים, בסביבות שעה 4:30. למעשה השעה הזאת היא שעת עומס. כל הילדים משחקים פה בחוץ, על הכביש, ועל יד בית הכנסת כולם מתרכזים, ילדים פה מתרכזים, נכנסים, לומדים. ובדיוק באותו זמן נפל הטיל הזה כאן. תלמידים היו אמורים להיות כאן, וילדים היו צריכים להיות כאן, וברוך השם, נס אחד גדול. בכלל שנפל בתוך בית הכנסת, זה היה טיל גדול, למעשה, נקבר באדמה. אם היה מתפוצץ, זה היה אסון.
מילה אחת, נס.
רואים שהקדוש ברוך הוא משגיח על עמו ישראל.
אין לזה הסבר בכל תורת לחימה. זה גורם שהוא שובר את כל חוקי המלחמה. טילים שנורים, בדרך כלל חייבים נופלים במקומות מאוכלסים, אתה בדרך כלל גורם לנזק. ובאורח פלא, מאות טילים חמאס יורה, וכמעט כלום. בבית של משפחה בדיוק יצאו. בגן ילדים, כמה דקות אחרי שהילדים הלכו, בתחנת דלק בתל אביב, לא התפוצץ.
הוא דוד נפל בחצר של חמותי.
Huge explosions, destroying whole city blocks.
אז נעלמו עוד 3,447 טילים בפצמרים.
אצלנו בבית למשל, מטר מהפינת אוכל בחוץ, נפל פצמר ולא התפוצץ. שישנו בחוץ, מחוץ לא ישנו בממ"ד.
ומה התוצאה? למעלה מ-75% מהטילים נופלים בשטחים פתוחים. איך האויב מסביר את זה? בוא תראה. זה מה שהם אומרים. האלוהים שלהם משנה את הטיל באוויר. האלוהים שלהם.
קיבוץ עלומים, בעוטף עזה, 3 קילומטר מהגדר. הערבים כיוונו אלינו. ונפל מסביב, זה נפל בתחנת האוטובוס שמחוץ לקיבוץ, וגם שם באותו רגע לא היו נוסעים שחיכו לאוטובוס. בתוך הקיבוץ, חוץ מהטיל של חיל האוויר שנפל, לא היו נפילות. ובאותו זמן של הנפילה, לא היו אנשים באזור. אנשים היו 2 דקות לפני, 2 דקות אחרי, באותו רגע אף אחד לא היה שם. זה פשוט נס שלא נתפס, הגודל של הנס הזה. כמה שניסו לפגוע בנו ולירות עלינו וירד בלתי פוסק. היו פה ימים של צבע אדום במרווחים של 2-3 דקות, וברוך השם, כל פעם תפילה לשטחים פתוחים.
Here's a question and I have a question. Just quickly to review what's happening here. There was also another story of a person that replaced his crash helmet called Kippat Barzel with a black helmet called Kippah Emeti. That he was in charge of the Iron Dome program surrounding Tel Aviv. And there were different layers of iron domes. One was just outside of Gaza that would strike the rockets that were going in a real trajectory pattern towards any city accurately, and it had about a 99% success rate. With one rocket that was launched, a huge rocket, the first 2 rockets that were launched from just outside Gaza missed their target for unexplained reasons. The second one was in the middle of the country. They launched those 2 rockets within about 10 seconds of the rockets racing towards Tel Aviv, and those 2 rockets missed their target. And each of these rockets is about $500,000 shekels in cost. And then the last and final hope to down that rocket was at the periphery, the southern border of Tel Aviv, and they launched those rockets with about 3 to 5 seconds remaining, and those 2 rockets missed the target. And the rocket was racing towards the Azrieli Towers with tens of thousands of people in the buildings, and at the very last second, an easterly wind took the rocket and swept it into the ocean. If it's not enough that Hamas says what can they do about it, the guy that was running the Kippah Barzel program took off his metal helmet and he put on a black yarmulke to say Shechiyanu. He saw the hand of Hashem plucking Am Yisrael out of absolute destruction.
אני רוצה לשאול שאלה אחת, איך הם מצאו בתל אביב כל כך הרבה שטחים פתוחים? גרתי בתל אביב שנים, בתל אביב אין שום שטח פתוח. אין שום שטח פתוח. נשק הטילים.
Sorry, another point on this little issue that he says that he knows Tel Aviv for tens of years. And he said that as far as he's concerned, he never found Shetach Patuach in Tel Aviv. So an even stronger question was asked in the Gulf War when Saddam Hussein was launching 40 rockets into Israel. There were rockets that fell into Ramat Aviv and in many other places on the other side of the road to Bnei Brak. And 7 of the rockets actually hit the super pharmacies and even Meretz and the left-wingers asked the terrifying question, what does Saddam Hussein have against Superfarm? And the answer was that Superfarm used to be open on Shabbos. But after the 7 special lessons, they got it, and now they're closed on Shabbos. So the question, the raging question through all the wars was, how come rockets landed on this side of the road and that side of the road, but not one rocket ever fell in Bnei Brak? Because in Bnei Brak, for sure they have no Shetach Patuach. They don't have even 1 inch of open space in Bnei Brak. It's Malay Torah.
כפי שהוא סוכר על ידי ישראל בכיפת ברזל ועל ידי ההתנהגות בשטח, וכמובן הנס הגדול שאחוזים מסוימים בודדים מתוך מאות הטילים שהם ירו אכן הגיעו, פגעו ובאמת גרמו לנזק, ושימו לב שהרוב קרה בשטחי גילוז, בפצמרים, בעיקר מחוסר זהירות. זה בעצם דבר ששבר את חמאס וגרם לו לחפש את ההפתעה הבאה, בעצם להאיץ עצמו, להזדרק.
Okay, so this next point is what they were working on for 15 years. Look at the power of these tunnels, and these are the small tunnels. They're big tunnels that can take trucks and jeeps through them, transporting tons of weapons and machine guns. Hundreds of thousands of machine guns were ready to go this Rosh Hashanah. But in the schut of 3 righteous little boys that left this world of Kiddush Hashem, 6 million of us are left to sing the praises of Hashem.
אז לשלוף את ההפתעה שכנראה לא הייתה מוכנה כולה, ואז נכנס נשק המנהרות לסיפור.
וכמו בלעם, יימח שמו וזכרו, הם חיכו שהשם יכעס עליהם. אבל אנחנו רוצים להגיד לך, הקדוש ברוך הוא, אנחנו רוצים להגיד לך שאנחנו יודעים, אתה לא כועס עלינו, אתה אוהב אותנו. אנחנו רוצים להגיד לך תודה, פעם אחת כולנו ביחד, תודה רבה, על השמירה ועל האהבה שלך שאתה זורק עלינו, ועל השטחים הפתוחים ששמת לנו באמצע תל אביב בכל העולם. תודה רבה לך על הכל, על כל הניסים ועל כל הנפלאות. תודה רבה לך על האחדות שזרעת בה בזכות המלחמה הטוב הזאת.
And this isn't a moment you think every one of our soldiers went home to tell their families and their parents and their brothers and sisters and their wives and children about the miracles that Hashem has done with us in this day. Thank you, Hashem. So as we contemplate the miracles and the magnitude of the miracles that we experienced back then, Rabbi Ephraim, there's a song. English translation.
Okay, there's
yes, it's on. It's on. Volume? Yeah, it's on. The volume's good. Listen now.
Yeah. Okay, the song goes in Hebrew. Afila Bastoret.
So even when we think that we can't see Hashem in the tragedies, come on.
Oy vi afile be yasture shebesoy khasture bevadai gam sham nimtzu Hashem yizborach. Oy vi afile be yasture
even in the hidden things,
shebesoy khasture
hidden of the hidden,
bevadai gam sham
Hashem is there.
nimtzu Hashem yizborach. Oy 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 gam meyachoy yadvor makushim oy v'molechu ani oy vay ani oy may gam meyachoy yadvor makushim oy v'molechu ani oy may כולם יחד ay 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 גם meyachoy yadvor makushim oy v'molechu כולם יחד ani oy may ay גם meyachoy yadvor makushim oy v'molechu ani oy oy vi afile be yatzluchem shebesoy chatzluchem bevadai gam sham nimtzu Hashem yizborach ve'yafile be yatzluchem shebesoy chatzluchem bevadai gam sham nimtzu Hashem ay 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 gam meyachoy yadvor makushim oy v'molechu ani oy may Ani oy mai. Oh, Abai, say any request for a special song?
Oh, Hanukkah, like
אנחנו נשאיר פה את השיר של מלבסקי, כבוידוי מלא עולם. כבוידוי מלא עולם משור סוף שואלים זה לא זה אוי זה לא זה מקהילה בבקשה שואלים זה לא זה איי מקוים כבודוי איי מקוים כבודוי איי מקוים כבודוי איי מקוים כבודוי מלא עולם פשטה כבודוי מלא עולם ושסר שיילים זה לא זה איי מקוים כבודוי ושסר שיילים זה לא זה איי מקוים כבודוי שסר שיילים זה לא זה איי מקוים כבודוי ליום הסוף מה אוסור ישועתי לך נאה לשבח תיכון בתפילתי ושם תודו נזבח לאלוהים עליה יתור עולמיה הרבו בשם יזמור חנוכת המזבח הרבו בשם יזמור חנוכת המזבח אויבונים נקבצו עליי היה אזי בימי חשמני ופצו חיימייס מגדולי ותימנו כל השמנים everybody together אויבונים נקבצו עליי היה אזי בימי חשמני ופצו חיימייס מגדולי ותימנו כל השמנים ומינוי סקרני קרנים נעשה נס לשוי שנים ודמינוי וישמעינה כל שידו לנונים ומינוי סקרני קרנים נעשה נס לשוי שנים ודמינוי וישמעינה כל שידו לנונים אנחנו רוצים להזמין את הבן של הרב שטרנבוך, רבה של ירושלים. איפה מחיאות כפיים רבותיי? I don't hear you, חבר'ה. יעלה ויובוי. כן.
כן, רציתי להודות לקדוש ברוך הוא בקהל אום, ודוקטור בנק נותן לי את ההזדמנות לכך. אני הייתי לא במצב כזה שהייתי ביחד בתוך הבית הכנסת, אבל בשביל לקיים את השירו לוי, זמו לוי, שיחו בכל נפלאוי סוף, היה כמה נפלאות שהקדוש ברוך הוא הזמין לידי שנוכל לספר את שהקדוש ברוך הוא אוהב אותנו, נותן לנו השגחה פרוטיס. אני תמיד מתפלל שם, במניין בבית הכנסת, מתפלל דווקא זה למעלה, ואני עולה מלמעלה תמיד, מחוף קצרי בוגד, דרך עזת נשים, עולה משם. היום, באותו יום, אני החלטתי, אני יורד נכנס מלמטה, ויקח איזה ספר קודם, ולכן באתי מלמטה. ואחר כך ראיתי איזה נפלאות מהקדוש ברוך הוא, שאם ממש אם הייתי נכנס ומתקדם, זה היה בדיוק על השניות שהייתי פוגש אותם. כפי מה שנראה לי שהרוצחים האלה היו בצד, בעזרת נשים, מתי שאני הייתי. זה לא ייתכן שהם נכנסו אחר כך, כי אחרי שרק אני חזרתי, אני כבר ראיתי שם, התחלתי קצת ללכת, ראיתי במטבח, מישהו יוצא משם, הבנתי שהם לא במטבח, הם כנראה היו. על כל פנים, התחלתי רק לעלות 3 מדרגות, להתקדם למעלה, ברגע האחרון החלטתי שלא כדאי להיכנס, אני אפסיק, לא כדאי, אני אעלה למעלה. איך שאני עולה 3 מדרגות, אז אני שומע, עד היום לא יודע מה שמעתי, היה נראה לי כמו מכונה כזאת, שומע משהו, מה זה, עד שאני עולה עוד כמה מדרגות, ממשיך, אז היה היריות. חשבתי אולי איזה פיצוץ של מכונה, מה זה, לא ידעתי. התחלתי מיד להתקדם, הבנתי שזה כבר פה סיפור שראיתי שכולם רצים מלמעלה, כולם רצים ופחדים שיש פה משהו. על כל פנים, מה שאני רואה פה את החסד השם, שיחו בכל נפלא איסוף. קודם כל, אם הייתי נכנס, הייתי מתקדם עוד לפני הבית כנסת, אחר כך נודע לי שבזמן העיריות, מה קרה? היה אחד בשם ממש צדיק גדול, הקדוש רב קלמן ולוי, הוא יצא מהבית הכנסת כנראה. למה? כי הוא לא היה, אני לא ראיתי אותו. בוודאי שהוא יצא, הוא היה קודם בבית כנסת כנראה, והוא יצא כי הוא נהרג ממש על יד הבית הכנסת. ממש שם רואים ששם יש כל השבולית של דם, הכל. לא בעזרת נשים הוא היה. הוא התחיל לצאת, הם כנראה התקדמו וראו אותו. אז אם אני הייתי מתקדם בשניות האלה, הייתי מגיע לעזרת נשים, אז בזה לפני זה ודאי שהם היו תופסים אותי ככה, הייתי נפגש איתם פנים בפנים. אחר כך, בעצם הדבר שהקדוש ברוך הוא נתן להם את העניין שהם ייכנסו בעזרת נשים, הסתתרו שם, אני לא אראה אותם, הכל פלאים. וגם כשהתחלתי לעלות ולא ירדתי, לא הסתכמתי, בדרך כלל אני טיפוס שרוצה לברר כל דבר, באותו שנייה החלטתי, לא, אל תתערב, תעלה, זה לא, אתה לא תדע מה לעזור. זאת אומרת, אני לא חשבתי שמדובר על רצח. אני אומר, רואים, הקדוש ברוך הוא העמיד אותי שאני צריך כנראה לא להיות בהרגל, שבן אדם חושב, מגיע לי עכשיו לחיות, מגיע לי לחיות עוד דקה. חושב, הכל מגיע לו. הגעתי למצב שהקדוש ברוך הוא הראה לי, לא, אני מעוניין לתת לך חיים. עכשיו בואו נחשוב, כל זמן שאני שומו בקיר בי, מוידי אני לפניך השם אלוקי אלוקי אביסי. יבין כל המייסים, עדין כל הנשומויס, כמה אני יכול להודות לקדוש ברוך הוא. נדמה לי שהרב פינקוס אמרו בדיוק, שמעו ממנו שיחה, ממש לפני שנפטר, אז ליבוי ידע כנראה שהולך להיות משהו, אז הוא אמר, אין לנו שמי, הוא בא אצלנו בבית הכנסת על זה, הוא דיבר ואמר, אין לנו מושג איזה עושר זה החיים, זה מיליונים, איזה מיליארדים זה. מה זה ההודעה לקדוש ברוך הוא? בואו נתאר את זה, כתוב במשנה, יפה שעה אחת בתשובה ומעשים טובים בעולם הזה, יותר מכל חיי העולם הבא. מה זה? מה ההזדמנות הזאת שאפשר לזכות שתשובה ומעשים טובים? לחיות בעולם הזה. אז נו, הרי לא אוהב לשמוע איזה סיפור. אז נספר הסיפור כשהגאון מווילנה, אתם יודעים הרי שאנחנו, אבא שלי תמיד כותב בספר שאנחנו נכדים של הגאון מווילנה. כשהגאון מווילנה נפטר בכל המועד סוכס, הגיעו התלמידים בשמחת תורה, לשמוח בשמחת תורה. לא היו מסוגלים לשמוח. הצער היה כל כך גדול, תמיד היה להם את הגאון מווילנה, האור הגדול, המלאך השם, איך שהוא רקד בשמחת תורה, והוא היה האור, פתאום אין הגאון מווילנה. התחילו, ניסו, עוד פעם, אין. זה לא הולך, אי אפשר לשמוח, לא שייך, אין שמחה בלב. אז שהגיע רב חיים ולוז'ינר ואמר, דפק על הבימה ואמר, רבו ישראל, בואו ונחשוב מה עושה הרבה שלנו עכשיו בשמיים. אמרו לו, מה זאת אומרת? הרבה עכשיו אומר חידוש יותר שכל השרופים עומדים ושומעים את החידושים שלו. מה לא לזה התכוונתי. אני אגיד לכם מה הרבה עושה. הרבה עומד ומשתתח לפני כיסא הכובד ומבקש ברחמי ותחנוני, אבל ריבונו של עולם תן לי עוד קצת זמן לחיות בעולם הזה, להגיד איזה חידוש, איזה פרק משנה, שאת הזכות הזאת לקדש שם שמיים. בוכה, ושברוך הוא אומר, לא, אתה לא מקבל את הזכות הזאת. אתם יודעים הרי שכולם יודעים, הגאון מווילנה לפני שהוא נפטר, הוא החזיק את הציצית ובכה ואמר, הנה את הציצית הזאת אפשר להשיג בת כמה פרוטות, ואיזה זכות עצומה יש עוד לחיות בעולם הזה. ואיזה כתוב בגמרא שמקיים ציצית זה כמו כל התרי"ג מצוות. זכות עצומה. על כל פנים מתאר את זה הלאה, שהגאון מווילנה בא ואמר, אז אולי תיתן לי להגיד, תנו לי להגיד, כמו משה רבנו כתוב, תנו לי להגיד איזה משנה אחד, אפילו כמו עם האורץ, תנו לי להגיד אומן. כתוב בגמרא במדרש, כתוב שאין גודל לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, יעשה מאמן שאוהבים ישראל בעולם הזה. תן לי אומן אחד מקדש שם שמיים, זה הכל. תן לי, מה אני מחפש, הרטון יומי, תן לי עוד דבר אחד. לא, הגויין השיבו פניו ריקם, לא ולא, אין לך שום דבר. גמרנו, גמרת את החיים. אחר כך קם רב חיים ולוז'ינר וכזה ואמר, אבל אנחנו, איזה שמחה עצומה הוא הכניס בי כולם. אנחנו יכולים להגיד אומן, ויכולים להגיד ישמעאל רבו, שזה מעורר את כל הישועות, את כל הברכות, ולהגיד וללמוד תורה שגודלתה בתורה. לנו יש את הכל, מה אנחנו עומדים ומתעצבים פה? ואז הוא עורר את כל העולם, את כולם לכזה שירה וכזה שמחה. ולברוך אלוקינו שברונו לכבודו. טוב, אנחנו רק נסיים שכתוב בסידר, אנחנו אומרים את זה, שיעור חדוש, איך אומרים שם, לא סבידיד עם סביר מוישב לישראל לכל מיכו מויכו. זה מתחיל מיכו מויכו בועל עם השם, מיכו מויכו לדבר קודש, מתחילים להכיר, ראו כל כך הרבה ניסים, אז רואים, מתחילים להכיר גם את השם, או שהקדוש ברוך הוא מסתכל ומסתכל כל פרט ופרט. דרך אגב, אני אומר גם את זה, אני גם צריך להודות לשם. מישהו סיפר לי, השכן שלי, היה שם גם כן, והוא אמר לי, הוא היה שם, הוא ברח מיד מהדלת של מזרח. כשאני ברחתי, ראיתי היה קבוצה קטנה שברחה מהקומה הראשונה. הוא אומר לי, אני הייתי, וחבר שלי עמד על ידי, אני ברחתי מיד, והוא לקח לו עוד כמה דקות שהיה לו פחד מוות בסוף, כשהיה שם מלחמה, בסוף יצאו עוד שיירה. אז מי זכה לצאת בשיירה הראשונה, ומי זכה לצאת בשיירה השנייה, שבינתיים הוא היה צריך לעבור את הפחד מוות הזה, ולקודש ברוך הוא שיער לכל אחד בדיוק מה מגיע לו, כמה פחד, כמה לא. מי כמוך נדור בקודש, כל דבר מי שאחר כך שמע מה שהיה שם, את כל אחד בדיוק מה שהיה. אבל אחרי זה אומרים, מלכותך רעוב עליך, מה זה הביא לכולם? שהשם ימלוך לעולם ועד. הכרנו שהקדוש ברוך הוא המלך שלנו, ובעזרת השם אנחנו נוכל לעבוד אותו, וזה הרבנו יוינו, כל הסעיף, באיזו בין עולם הבא, כל הסומך גאולה לתפילה. למה? כי אחרי שהוא מכיר שאחרי גאולה צריכים לעשות תפילה, זה עבודת השם, זאת אומרת לא השם ימלוך ולעבוד אותו, אז הוא זה שמכיר, פה מגיע השלמות. מכיר מה זה ערך החיים, זה נותן לו את הדחיפה לעשות את המצוות באהבה ולהכיר את הערך עם חשק, ובעזרת השם נזכה להתרוממות בעבודת השם ובהודעה לקדוש ברוך הוא על כל רגע ורגע מהחיים.
יש כוח לכבוד הרב חיים עוזר, חזק אותנו, בעזרת השם, השם חזק אותך, וכל עם ישראל. זה זמן של ניסים ונפלאות באמצע החושך, והחושך שבחושך. Even in the darkness of the darkest darkness, the end of the galut, it says that just before the dawn, Amud HaShachar, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is almost the most invisible of world history, 6 million korbanot, not less than what happened a month ago. The tragedy of our world history through the thousands of years, each of our forefathers, if we knew what they went through, we'd be absolutely overwhelmed at the incredible miracles of every one of our forefathers in every generation. And we've come to this moment of light, this moment at the end of the galut of 2,000 and 3,000 years. The big secret for us is the greatest challenge of world history, just to hold tight to the emunah and bitochen in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So one of the things that we were reflecting on earlier today was an incredible thing, Shabbos morning, they run and we run. It says on the Masechtot of the Gemara, it says they run to a deep dark hole, Ber Choshech. And we run Olam Haba. Some people make it in record time, some people take 120 years to get there. But Am Yisrael yesh lehem chelik b'olam haba. This world is so beautiful and gorgeous and fantastic. The Vilna Gaon cried for a few prutas. We should be crying for the millions that Hashem is showering upon us. The agony of thinking that if the people in Auschwitz would see what's on the table here tonight, they would faint from the blessings that Hashem is showering us with. The limud Torah that's going on, the chizuk, the kiruv, unprecedented in world history. Hashem is giving this generation ma'al va'eva, beyond anything that was ever comprehended before. We're experiencing the end of that choshech. At the end of the night comes the light of the dawn. Yaakov Avinu was fighting with none other than Esav's sire. Who is that? The Sechet Sanhedrin says the sire shel Esav is none other than the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death. And through all the galut, the thousands of years, the best that the Malach HaMavet could do was inflict a damage on the Gid HaNesher. So Yaakov was limping through world history. What was he after? To destroy the bris milah. Shmad v'harog v'habed. What did he accomplish? A drop in the ocean. The real challenge facing us right now is to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu very soon will come the Geula Shlema, Mashiach Tzedkenu, Beis Hamikdash b'Melave Yameinu, the tzaddikim that left this world, Al Kiddush Hashem, will return to this world, Al Kiddush Hashem, with Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen, Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Avinu, and Kol Avotenu v'Imotenu, b'Melave Yameinu, Bezrat Hashem, Beis Hamikdash, Bezrat Hashem, Gan Eden Kekedem, Gan B'olam Hazeh, B'olam Hazeh. Chanukah Sameach, everyone, Yeshakot Gadol. Could you ask Rav Abraham, who has experienced his own massive miracles sitting on the real throne? That was something that the enemies of Israel in every generation are turning in their graves until now for the throne that Rav Abraham sat on.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to say a very short word. I thought of that the reason why this month is called Kislev, because the Greeks, the Greek philosophy, they say that we have to understand everything. That we have to understand everything that happens in the world. The Greek philosophers, they have to understand everything. Even we say Nasa v'Nishma. We sometimes act like we're Ksil. Ksil means what? Who knows? Who knows the book of Mishlei? What does Ksil mean? Ksil. Huh? A fool, stupid. So we act sometimes like we don't understand. So that's what Chanukah shows us, that sometimes we don't have to understand everything. Nasa v'Nishma. We do things because Hashem said. Not like the Greeks who said you have to understand everything, or the Hellenists. So that's what Kislev symbolizes. Anyway, I just want to wish everybody a happy Chanukah, and also want to thank my two friends for coming with me tonight. First of all, I have here Alexander Heppenheimer. He's here from New York. What happened about a month ago, him and me were both in a contest on Tanakh, and we both got second place. So the government paid for us to come to Eretz Yisrael to take a test over here, and he's going to be on Tuesday one of the finalists. If anyone wants a ticket, I have some tickets here, and but you have to really use the ticket. It's a free ticket. It's going to be at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night in Binyanei Ha'omah. Anyone want a ticket? You want one? How many?
5.
5? You'll be able to use all of them? Sure use them?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you 5. Okay, anyone else?
Hurry while they last, guys. Your
Okay,
last chance.
by the way, Alexander Heppenheimer's brother learned in the yeshiva in which year?
He came here in Tafshin Samach about.
Tafshin Samach Aleph. And my father told me he was one of the best bachrim in the yeshiva. His brother now lives in Lakewood, is steiging away. So, it's a big zchus to have people come from the yeshiva and learning and keeping the Torah world going. We also have here tonight, what's your name? Eliezer Abergel from Strasbourg, who also came all the way from France. He came 2 years ago also. He won, what number did you win in France 2 years ago? What? Who can speak French? Biosé Papillon.
Quel classement vous avez eu en France il y a 2 ans? Quel était votre classement?
C'était premier ex-aequo.
First one.
First one, and this time, what number were you in France? This time?
First one, Teco.
Okay, Teco. Okay, so he shared first one. Okay, but anyway, he's a dentist, and he spends a lot of hours learning Tanakh, which I wanted to say, this is very important. When I was in Yeshiva, I learned in Ponevezh, and I saw there's a Prima Godim. Prima Godim is considered one of the greatest halachic sforim. And he writes in the introduction to his Sefer on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim that if the Bachurei Yeshiva would know, if they would have some Chochmah, Lu Chochmah Yaskilu, they would spend time learning Tanakh. They would understand how important it is, because Tanakh is our foundation. You know, all the Gemara and everything. You can't know Tanakh just from learning Gemara. I mean, there's a lot of Pesukim from Tanakh and Gemara, but you have to, a Yid has to know Tanakh. We're not supposed to just learn, of course, everybody does Shnai Mikra Bechal Targum, but you have to also learn Nevi'im, you have to learn Ksuvim, and we have to learn the whole Tanakh. So in some ways it's even more important than Daf HaYomi, and it is more important because that's the foundation, the Torah Shabbatzah, and we have to learn it. Of course we have to understand, we have to learn it with the Mefarshim, with the Midrashim, and to understand what the Tanakh is saying. But everyone is obligated to know the Tanakh. So it's very special to have, to be part of this the group. Even though I didn't win this time, I'm going to try again in 2 years, Mirz Hashem. It's every 2 years I'm going to try. So I don't want to start learning too much now, and then in 2 years I'll forget. So, okay. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah. And you want to say a few words?
No.
No? In French? No? Okay. Good. So I give you 5 tickets. You'll use them? Okay.
Let's just work it out. Rudy, the Nach quiz at Binyan Umad, 6 o'clock on Yom Shlishi.
Yeah.
And at about 8, 9 o'clock we're having the event over here.
Okay.
So you're invited as well.
Thank you.
It's Zot Chanukah, which is Hod Chanukah.
Someone from South Africa in the contest.
Really?
Do you know the name of the guy from South Africa?
Gary Browdy.
Browdy, you know him?
Browdy. Very interesting.
He has a baby, his wife and baby came, especially. Very good baby.
Amazing.
Anyone else want a ticket? Shimon, you want a ticket? No? Okay. Anyone else? Joel, you want a
So I just want to say Yasher Koach to each and every one of you. Primrose is going to honor us with some songs. Hallel v'hoda'ot LaHashem. And Metz Hashem. Yeah. Metz Hashem.
He's in the contest. He's going to be on stage on Tuesday.
With Ephraim Mendelssohn? Bezrat Hashem. Okay, so we will be in contact regarding that, but also remember everybody, Yom Revi'i, Zot Chanukah, we hope to have the event here at Dvar Yerushalayim, Zot Chanukah, Hod Chanukah, Hod V'Hada Ala Hashem. Chanukah Sameach.
He's not American.
And Shavuot Tov. For those that haven't done Birkat Hamazon, how many people ate bread? Is there a third person that ate Mazonot? Okay, so we can do that. Okay.
You want to see the Beis Hamed?
These are things that keep me strong. It's said and been said before, and it's hard. on stacking my friend, keep on stacking my friend, getting closer, closer, closer to me. In a world full of Kashmir, I wanna find some romance. Calypso won't help me, but Torah mitzvahs is me. Keep on stacking my friend, keep on stacking my friend, getting closer, closer, closer to Hashem. Keep on stacking my friend, keep on stacking my friend, getting closer, closer, closer to Hashem. There was a mountain, there was fire, Moshe Rabbeinu was climbing high, 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 high. We were people, we were one soul, taking a whole lot of it. No, say, let it smile, as it was then, so it is now. No, say, let it smile, all of our people too. No, say, let it smile.
Try to echo.
Very good.